Hey, it's Ben Hassel here, and I just want to show you how to get a Keynote presentation into Final Cut Pro 10. So we're going to go from Keynote first of all, and just talk through a few of the things about how you set up the resolution, make sure you've got the right aspect ratio, and then we'll also run through those things in Final Cut Pro to make sure you get the right settings for what you're exporting out from Keynote. So basically, when you start up Keynote, you get these two options for standard and widescreen. Now, for most older projectors, they'll be presenting in the squarer 4:3 ratio or 1028 by 768 ratio projection. But for a lot of the new projectors, they'll be presenting in this widescreen presentation or 16:9 presentation format. So very much the same format as HD TV, either in 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. So that's what we're going to use to set this up. So we'll just grab one of these presentations. So we'll grab this photo essay presentation and choose that theme here. So once the presentation's opened up in Keynote, we want to check a couple of things here. So the first thing to check is the aspect ratio. So if we go to the document set up across here on the right hand side, you can see we've got this set up in the widescreen format. We can also set a custom slide size. So here you can see we're working at 1920 by 1080 points as it's measured in Keynote, but that will translate to 1920 by 1080 pixels when we export this out. So this is a perfect resolution for YouTube, for importing into Final Cut Pro, and then for working with in your edits if you want to do presentations in your edits. So if we click OK here, we're going to go back to our format, and here we can change the master slides, as you probably know in Keynote. So we can add in a few different slides here to create a quick presentation that we can then export and bring into Final Cut Pro 10. So we're just going to add a few slides here, and we'll add some transitions and then just look at how they export out. So we're not going to edit any of these slides in Keynote, we're just going to use them set at their default setup and layout. Okay, so we have a few slides in there. We'll add in some transitions as well. So if we go to animate and add an effect, we'll just add in some effects between the different slides so we can see how that's going to export out. So if we preview the slideshow here, so we'll come back to the first slide and press play, and as we move through these, we've got some transitions between each of the slides, and that's what's going to export out when we create a movie from Keynote here. So let's escape out of there. So to export this out to Final Cut Pro, pretty straightforward. We need to go to File, Export to, and we need to export out a QuickTime movie. So here we've got some options for the timing of the QuickTime movie and the resolution. So we can set the slide to 5 seconds or 10 seconds, go to Next. So it's going to move through these slides as self-playing slides after each 10 seconds, and then we'll export it out at 1080p. But you can also see we can export out custom resolution as well, and we can also export out in Apple ProRes formats as well if we want to have a higher quality piece of footage to work with in Final Cut Pro 10. I'm going to leave this at 1080p and press Next. We'll save this directly to the desktop, so Shift Command and D takes me to the desktop, and we'll just export this out as Keynote slides. And really, once it's exported, we can import this into Final Cut Pro as a regular movie and edit with it in Final Cut Pro 10 as we would any other clip. So let's jump into Final Cut Pro 10. We're going to create a new library to import this into. So I'm just going to create a brand new library here on the desktop here, so Keynote Edit, and then we can go to Import, jump to the desktop, look for the most recently created files, and we have the Keynote slides here, our exported movie, so we can import that, and you can see here we have our rendered out Keynote movie in 1080p. We can create a new project, drop this onto the timeline, and away we go. We have our Keynote footage on the timeline with each slide transitioning after every 10 seconds. So obviously we can change that, but one of the reasons I did it 10 seconds is because it's easier to shorten this now by cutting out a few of those seconds as we're editing in Final Cut Pro 10 rather than trying to add seconds in at any point in time, although we could do that with a freeze frame as well if we wanted to extend a slide when it's static like this. And this same export method can be used to pull your Keynote into iMovie as well if that's how you want to edit it. So if you're trying to edit your Keynote, pull it into Final Cut Pro 10 or into iMovie, then this technique will work. One thing that's really useful once you've got this into Final Cut Pro 10 is that if you want to add a narration over the top of this edit, then we can go to Window, Record VoiceOver, and then as we're playing through here, we can press record and we can record a voiceover over the top of our Keynote, test out different narrations as we're recording that voiceover, and then work with those and replace them. So if I click stop here and then press record again, it's going to record another version of that same voiceover in that same spot, and then I can audition the two and flip between both of those. So you can see if I right click here now, I have two versions of that voiceover that I just recorded. So it's a great way of trying out different narrations over the top of your presentations if that's what you're planning to upload to YouTube or to Facebook or another online video delivery format. I hope that's been useful, and again, if you have any questions about Final Cut Pro 10, iMovie or other Apple related questions, then please just send me a tweet at Ben Hassel or leave a comment below, and I will try and work my way through lots of the different great suggestions that I'm getting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next tutorial.